All right, Oklahoma. Well, let's see. Here's their schedule. Okay. They'll run through the Big 12, right? Because it's going to be probably the worst conference in all of America this year in terms of football. So they'll run through the Big 12. They'll be 12-0, 11-1. They'll have one of the best offenses in America. They'll have a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback. They'll have one of the worst, probably the worst defense in all of the Power 5. They'll win the Big 12 title game. They'll make the playoffs, and they'll get blown out in round 1 no matter who they play. Have a great day.
Who are you to wave your finger? You must have been out your head. I hold deep in muddy waters. You practically raised the dead. Rob the grave to snow the cradle.
Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And in addition to that as well, back today with some more of these way too early previews that we're doing. What we're doing is we're just taking an early look at some of these teams' schedules, trying to figure out what's like a best case scenario in terms of overall regular season record. And what's the worst case scenario if everything goes wrong? Maybe you get some injuries, maybe you get upset a time or two, whatever, you get the idea, trying to come up with a range. And then, of course, over the summer, like we always do here on LouTube, we'll go back through these schedules and I'll pick a winner and a loser for every single game and give you an exact record prediction for all of these teams. But up today, the Oklahoma Sooners. All right. Kendall J, good morning, sir, and shout out to you. This video is for you, sir. Of course, I'm letting all of the Patreon members pick one team each, and I'm going through and doing this series of videos for those teams. Once we finish up with all the Patreon member suggestions, then I'll move on to some other teams that I want to do or you guys have recommended in the comment section. If you want to get signed up on the Patreon page, there's a link in the description of this video. It'll take you over there. Just click the link. It's real easy to get signed up. And you can pick a team, and I'll make sure I cover it in this best case, worst case series that we're doing. But Kendall, thank you, sir. Appreciate the support on the channel. Thank you. All right, Oklahoma Sooners. Different verse, same as the first for this year? Maybe. Well, we'll see. Of course, Oklahoma had a lot of success in the regular season over the last few years since the playoff era started, really, right? Have ran through the Big 12 almost every single year, made the playoffs almost every single year, and lost in round 1 almost every single year. Happened again last year, getting blown out by Alabama. Happened the year before, losing a close game, a great game. One of the best playoff games we've seen in the playoff era, right, between Oklahoma and Georgia. Lost a close one there. Defense is the issue with Oklahoma. I mean, this isn't anything anyone doesn't know, including Oklahoma fans. Now, yeah, you got a few Oklahoma fans who try to make excuses about, well, their defense is ranked bad because of the teams they play, and everyone in the Big 12 has great offenses. That's why the defensive stats look bad, blah, blah, blah. Is that true, though? Let's see. No, not really. Now, I will give you that the Big 12 has some of the best offenses in college football over the last few years. Oklahoma, of course, always has one of the best offenses themselves. West Virginia's had a great offense the last couple of years. Oklahoma State. So there are a few teams in the Big 12 that have great offenses and put up great numbers. But here's the thing. Everybody in the Big 12 plays the same schedule, minus your 3 non-con games, right? I mean, you're all playing these same supposedly high-powered offenses. Okay, you're the worst, Oklahoma, in all of the Big 12. And I had to look this stuff up and write it down because I said, there's no way this is true. You're 114th in total defense last year. 104. I can tell you right now, you are never going to win a playoff game with a defense ranked in the hundreds. It's never going to happen. I don't care how good of an offense you have. And you've had, of the playoff teams over the last 3 or 4 years, every single year, Oklahoma has the best offense. Now, last year, Alabama had a great offense too, and you faced them in the first round, and obviously you lost. But you're never, and not just Oklahoma, there isn't a team that's ever going to win a playoff game with a total defense ranked in the 100s. It's not going to happen. And shut up about how, it's just the Big 12 offenses. If it's just the Big 12 offenses, then how is Iowa State having the 33rd ranked defense? Now, even 33rd is not elite or great, but it's almost 100 damn spots higher than Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't even try to run a real defense. They kept that coordinator there about 3 years too long. You finally fired him. Congratulations, I guess. You bring in the Grinch here, Yeah, this guy, and it's not going to be some sort of miracle overnight cure. Was coaching a problem with the defense at Oklahoma? Yes, you guys can't do basic things like wrap up, cover in space, pressure to QB. I mean, you're just terrible all the way around. But another huge issue is just talent. You just don't have the defensive talent to have an elite defense. You just don't. You used to back in the day. I don't know what happened, but the point is, congratulations, you got one of the best offenses year in and year out, but your defense is absolutely embarrassing. Iowa State plays the same Big 12 schedule you play, they're 33rd. TCU plays the same Big 12 schedule you play, they're 24th in total defense. Texas, who you hate, and is probably the second best team in the Big 12, their defense was only ranked 67th, but that's almost 60 spots higher than you. So let's just pretend for a minute here that this Grinch is the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. How much improvement do you really think you're going to get year one under this guy? Let's just pretend for a minute that you have one of the greatest turnarounds in defensive college football history, and you improve, let's say you improve 64 spots. If you improve 64 spots in total defense, you're still sitting with the 50th ranked total defense in football. And guess what that's going to mean no matter how great your offense is? It means you're going to show up in round one of the playoffs and get housed again. It's just what's going to happen, okay? I mean, I hate to get off on a rant here, but these Oklahoma fans who make these excuses about the only reason the defensive stats are so bad is because of the teams you play, it's just BS. It's just BS. Iowa State's almost 100 spots better than you on defense. So please, shut the hell up. Stop pretending that football is played on one side of the ball. Learn how to play some defense. And maybe people will start taking you seriously. But I don't know, though. Lincoln Riley returns for his third year. Made the playoffs and won the Big 12 each of his first 2 years. One of the best young coaches in college football. If you see a list of the top 5 coaches in college football and Lincoln Riley's not on it, just disregard the list. It's a potato list. I'm no Lincoln Riley fan or Oklahoma fan or whatever, and I don't want to hear anything, oh, he inherited him, Bob Stoops. That doesn't matter. Listen, you think, okay, ask yourself this. It's all Bob Stoops players. If you put Butch Jones at Oklahoma, are they making the playoffs? No. So just stop. Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, okay? So let's give him a little bit of credit. Back-to-back Heisman winners at quarterback. Who else can say that? So just get real. What'd you do last year? We ran through the Big 12 with one loss, that being to Texas, which you got revenge on them in the Big 12 title game. And of course, you lost to Alabama in the playoffs 45-34, but that game was not that close. The game was over at halftime. Alabama coasted for the last 2.5 quarters of that game. Let's just be real. So 11-1 in the regular season. You finish up 12-2, winning the Big 12 title game, losing in the first round of the playoffs. Got to replace your quarterback again. You bring Jalen Hurts in from Alabama. I think Jalen Hurts will be successful at Oklahoma. Listen, Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing on offense and with the quarterback position. Jalen Hurts can run around. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if Jalen Hurts gets 700 or 800 yards rushing and 3,500 yards passing. Do I think Jalen Hurts will put up Kyler Murray numbers? No. Do I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the third Oklahoma quarterback in a row to win the Heisman? No. But if Oklahoma starts off 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, whatever, and they're ranked top 5, which is likely, and Jalen Hurts is putting up decent numbers, he'll be in the conversation. Whether he makes it to New York City or not, I'm not so sure. And that's not so much a knock on Jalen Hurts as it is Oklahoma now becoming a victim of their own success at the quarterback position. You've won the Heisman at quarterback 2 years in a row. Baker Mayfield a couple of years ago, Kyler Murray last year. You almost have to beat those two guys' numbers now if you're an Oklahoma quarterback in order to win the Heisman in my mind. I could see a scenario, now I don't expect this to happen, but I could see a scenario where Jalen Hurts has the most total yards of any quarterback in America, but still doesn't win the Heisman because the numbers, I don't think, are going to compare to what Kyler Murray did last year, and I think that'll get held against him. Whether that's fair or not is not the point. I just think he's going to be compared to the two previous Oklahoma quarterbacks when it comes time to start voting for the Heisman. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even have Jalen Hurts on my Heisman a top 5 or whatever for that reason. Anyway, Let's get into the schedule and see what Oklahoma can do with this here. Now, of course, we go through this real quick. The more detailed version of these videos will start over the summer, probably towards the end of June. So we're going to run through this pretty quick. I'm going to put the schedule in 3 or 4 different categories, right? Non-con games, away games, what's your toughest 3-game stretch, and are there any trap games? So here we go. Here's the schedule. Let's run through it real quick and take a look at it. All right, you start off at home against Houston. Houston been a good, not great, but a good group of 5 team over the last few years. Now, they lose some key players off last year's team, most notably Ed Oliver, who's just an absolute monster. You guys are 2-1 against Houston all time. You'll be favored in that game. Week 2, another home game, South Dakota. Again, who is that? Shouldn't be an issue. Week 3, a Power 5 game on the road at UCLA. Chip Kelly's second year there. What a disaster Chip Kelly's been at UCLA so far. I expect that trend to continue. You're a much better team than UCLA. You could play this game on the moon. It wouldn't really matter. All right, then you get your first of 2 bye weeks, and I'll mention this again for those that don't know. Every team gets 2 bye weeks this year. It's not a change in college football. It just has to do with the way the calendar works out this year. So everybody gets 2 bye weeks. Yours are split up pretty good. Play 3 games, have a bye, and then you get a bye much later in the season, so those are split up pretty good. You come out of your bye week, your first Big 12 game at home against Texas Tech. Another team that doesn't know anything about defense here. You've scored, how many points have you scored against Texas Tech in the last decade? 400? I don't know. It's been close. You've scored 38 or more points the last 8 times you played them. That trend will likely continue. Then you go on the road here at Kansas. Les Miles. Is Les Miles going to win a big game this year? That's the question. And maybe if I ever do a Kansas video, we'll get into that more. I think if you're a Kansas fan, which if you are, what are you doing? Well, you know, basketball, you didn't even win the Big 12 this year in basketball. That's pitiful. Hadn't they won the Big 12 in basketball like 14 years in a row? Not this year. Sorry for you lost, Jayhawks. Anyway, no one expects Kansas to come out and win 10 games this year, right? But the Les Miles effect year 1, what will it be? Will they beat one of the big boys in the Big 12? Will they beat an Oklahoma? Will they beat a Texas? You beat Texas a couple years ago. Anyway, we'll see. But obviously, you'll be a big favorite in this game. In this game here, right? Yes. Then the big one, Red River Shootout, neutral site game in Dallas, played every year, Oklahoma versus Texas. This is the game you lost last year in the regular season. Texas leads the all-time series 62-46, but Oklahoma been on the winning end more times than not over the last 10 to 15 years. But this will be the game of the year in the Big 12, right? Texas and Oklahoma is going to be everybody's pick to come out of the Big 12. No one's going to be shocked if these 2 teams end up playing twice like they did last year, this week, and then, of course, the end of the year, the Big 12 title game. I've already done a Texas version of this video. If I remember, I'll put a link up here. If you want to check that out, you can. There's also a playlist that I've created that'll have all these videos in them. So, Red River Shootout, Texas. Then you have a home game against West Virginia. I expect West Virginia to take a step back this year. Coaching change. They lose Will Greer and a couple of NFL wide receivers. I know West Virginia's excited. West Virginia's got one of the best fan bases in college football, in my opinion. They're not an elite team year in and year out, but those fans are diehard fans. I think they'll have a good team. I don't think it'll be a great team. I don't expect them to be as good as they were last year. And Oklahoma has never lost to West Virginia since West Virginia joined the Big 12. So you'll likely be a big favorite in that when it's at home for you. On the road at Kansas State, another team turning over the coaching situation here. Skeletor, Bill Snyder out. Whole new coaching staff in. Now, they have beat you several times over the last 10 years or so, have they not? The road team has won 6 of the last 7 in this game, which bodes well for you here, being that this game's at Kansas State. Then your second bye week. Then you have Iowa State. Thank God this game's at home, right? According to Oklahoma fan who floats around the internet, you can't win a game at Iowa State. It's the hardest place in America to play. How have you won 19 of 20 against Iowa State if it's impossible to win there? Slap yourself. Then you go on the road at Baylor. What a garbage can program this is. You're 12-2 in Waco. Make it 13-2. You're not losing that game, are you? No. Home against TCU. You've owned them lately. What have you? I think you've beat them 7 of the last 8. And then interstate rival, the Bedlam game they call this here, at Oklahoma State. You've owned them lately too, winning 13 of the last 15. Oklahoma State is one of those teams that seems to have a great offense every year. They're a lot like Oklahoma, but not as good offensively. But they have a great offense. They don't even try to play defense. The thing about Oklahoma State and what really holds them back, they seem to lose a couple of games every year. Then at the end of the year, you look back and you go, how the hell did Oklahoma State lose that game? Too inconsistent there with Gundy. How old is he now? Is he still 40? No, he's got to be about 45, 46 now. Nice mullet, buddy. Yeah, anyway, that's the schedule. I don't know why I set my notes down. No, I'm not done. I'm not done! I need about 3 more minutes of your time. Yeah, all right. So your non-con schedule is a joke. At home against Houston, good, not great group of 5 team. You should win without a problem. South Dakota, who is that? No one knows. On the road at UCLA, the Pac-12 is just pitiful all the way around. Chip Kelly's lost, don't know what the hell he's doing, can't recruit. He's at UCLA, he's got no offense. When it comes to a Chip Kelly team, that's the only thing you have to worry about. And in this case, you don't even have to worry about that. What about away games that could sneak up on you? Well, at UCLA, at Kansas State, at Baylor, at Oklahoma State. I do think I could see you losing one of these. I'll be honest. It's hard to go 12-0, right? It's hard to get up every single week in college football. These are all Power 5 teams here, all conference games with the exception of at UCLA. But at Kansas State, at Baylor, at Oklahoma State, I think it's at least possible you lose one of those. Not saying that you will, but this is a best case, worst case thing. What about a toughest 3-game stretch? Let's see. How about Texas, West Virginia, at Kansas State? What about at Baylor, home to TCU, at Oklahoma State? Your toughest 3-game stretch. Listen, the Big 12 is going to be terrible this year. The Big 12 is probably going to be the worst conference in football this year. Worst in the ACC, worst in the Pac-12. Your toughest 3-game stretch, Oklahoma fan. Houston, South Dakota, and at UCLA. That might be your toughest 3 games. I'm just being honest here. That's how bad the Big 12 is. That might be your toughest 3-game stretch, your first 3 games. What a joke. What about some trap games here? You guys know what trap games are. I don't need to explain them. Well, I probably do, but I'm not. What about at Kansas? That's the week before the Texas game. It's a road game, less miles. I think you have to at least put that on the list of potential trap games. Again, this is not me predicting you to win or lose any of these games. These are just, the ramblings of a lunatic is all this is really. TCU, the week before you got to go on the road and play the Bedlam game at Oklahoma State. I mean, those are your 2 potential trap games, I guess. So what are we looking at here in terms of best case, worst case? I think it's possible Oklahoma can go 12-0. If the defense can improve 50, 60, 70 spots over what it was last year, and the offense can stay anything close to what it was last year with Jalen Hurts, I think it's possible you can go 12-0. Obviously, your toughest games are going to be Texas, at Kansas State, I don't know, at Oklahoma State. How big of a step backwards is West Virginia going to take? I mean, you get them at home, but just a week after the shootout game. Do any of these teams sneak up on you? I think 12-0 is the best case. I don't see any way possible with this schedule and how bad the Big 12 is. I don't see any way possible you go worse than 9-3. I think that would be the floor. Would be 9-3. Not saying I expect you to go 9-3. Not saying I expect you to go 12-0. I think that's the window you're looking at for this year if you're an Oklahoma fan. So there it is. Best case scenario for the Oklahoma Sooners 2019 regular season. Undefeated at 12-0. According to Uncle Lou, worst case scenario, if everything goes wrong and the wagon wheels fall off on that little house on the prairie thing y'all wheel out before the games, 9-3. Have a great morning.
You must have